Hello out there, all you wonderful Nintendo fans. I am Jeff the Christian Gamer, and we are going to talk about something a little bit heavy in the sense that it pertains to pretty much any announcement that Nintendo makes. Uh, I haven't necessarily noticed this trend with Sony and Microsoft, but we'll go ahead and talk about it here. Basically, it's that time again. It's very shortly after a Nintendo announcement where they become so uncontrollably negative, talking about the people writing articles about Nintendo's new toy, gadget, gizmo, whatever, that the facts don't even really matter anymore. Uh, the most glaring of these Nintendo, I guess you could say, naysayers, was actually today. This afternoon, I read an article that was entitled "Nintendo's New Console Still Didn't Solve Nintendo's Biggest Problem." This article and many others like it uh, pay a backhanded compliment, I guess, like sort of an afterthought, and then proceed to kind of tear into the console's many flaws, quote unquote. Um, yeah, this one specifically focused on how third parties aren't supporting the Switch, as if Nintendo's presentation didn't even happen. Like, was there that awkward part in there where they basically brought up all the third party, well, not all the third parties, they brought up several big third party triple A title producing juggernauts and, basically had them say, hey, we support the Switch. And yeah, they specifically said in that presentation that they have something like 50 developers working on 80 games, and that number has only gone up. I think we're at like 80 developers and more than 100 games or something like that. But yeah, man, it's bothersome. It's egregious. Like the oversight and the wanton ignorance to the facts. I don't I don't understand why people write articles that disregard the truth entirely. Anyway, enough about that. Because I know and am confident in Nintendo's ability to produce something great, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the truth is with respect to Nintendo's consoles right now and what they're doing with their games. Um, Shoot, this is coming from straight from the Nintendo homepage. You got any number of games here. We got like there's 36 sitting here on their site that are either in the launch window or somewhere in the 2017 time frame. And these are relatively big names, man. There's Ultra Street Fighter, they got FIFA and Skyrim and all these things. Like there's so many great games in this list. I would admonish you to go to the Nintendo game guide and check it out yourself, man. But like, there's so many games on here. Not necessarily all games that I would want to play personally as a fan of a particular set of genres, but there really is something here for everyone. There's puzzle games, there's RPGs, there's adventure games, there's platformers, there's uh, all sorts of stuff. There's a smatter, there's racing games, there's sports games, uh, there's Sonic games, as if those aren't really just fast platformers. Shoot, there's Lego games, well, a Lego game rather, that's coming in spring in 2017. There's Skylanders. There's way too many games just in 2017, just announced by Nintendo, that are good, that are coming out to be saying something like, "Hey, there's a lack of games on Nintendo systems." It's troubling. It just makes me feel that this particular writer didn't take the time to sit down and do, well, this took me all of 15 minutes worth of research in order to figure out that this article was a moot point. I don't know. Anyway, it's also evident that whomever um, neglected, to do their research, missed the fact that, well, let me back up a bit. There was another glaring issue with this article that I read, and I quote, And that's a problem when Nintendo's competition, Microsoft's Xbox One and Sony's PlayStation 4, have enormous game libraries, cost less, and are more powerful. Nintendo realizes this, of course, and as do analysts who cover the video game industry. Never, not once, in the history of Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, Sega, anybody, has Nintendo been beaten on a launch price for their newest system. It's not going to change with the Switch. It hasn't changed with the Switch because the PlayStation Pro and I can't even remember the name of Microsoft's thing right now. But yeah, their two offerings compared to the Switch's pricing, they're not even there. They're more expensive. Let me see here. I had a list of. Let me see if I can find that list. Here we go. Launch prices. Going back, I'm only going back to the N64 because I figure I can illustrate my point best without going all the way back and boring you guys with facts that you may or may not have already known. But yeah, the N64, $199. The PlayStation, $299. Original Xbox, $299. That was one console generation. One of the best console generations, in my opinion, for Nintendo, even though they didn't actually win this generation as far as raw units sold, etc. I enjoyed their system more so than either of the other two offerings. Though I will say on Xbox, I did thoroughly enjoy Halo, even though I sucked at it to proportions I do not believe it is possible for people to suck even today. Anyway, we got the Nintendo GameCube, $199, PlayStation 2, $299, Xbox 360, $299/$399, depending on whether or not you wanted a bigger hard drive or not. Moving on down the list, we got the Wii, PlayStation 3, and let me see, what was the next Xbox? I think it was no, it was Xbox 360. Whoops. Wow. Sorry about that. Anyway, my point is the systems from every generation for the launches have been more from the other developers, from the other console makers, Microsoft and Sony, than Nintendo every single generation, all of them, every single one. So to have this guy literally say, hey, the price is better elsewhere, he is completely ignoring the facts. And the only possible logic I could think of to justify what he's saying is the fact that he's comparing a 3-year-old system, a 2.5 to 3-year-old set of systems, namely the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, to the newest offering from Nintendo, which doesn't make sense as a comparison because those systems are old and Nintendo is packing brand new technology into this system. So yeah, moot point, man, moot point. This entire article is one big long moot point. Yeah, I would just, for this guy, whomever he is, I could read off his name, but I'm gonna go ahead and not, because I feel that if I were to write an article this bad, I wouldn't want my stuff all out on Front Street. But yeah, to this guy, I would just advise to do research before you write an opinion piece. Before you try to assert this opinion piece as fact. It's troublesome and tiresome to read articles like this, because if you're not going to research it and you throw this off as fact, the people that actually sit down and read and look for the facts on Nintendo's website from the horse's mouth, I guess you could say, we look at this as a waste of our time. And the only reason why I bothered to make a video about this particular article is because this article is not exclusive to itself. This week alone, I've read something like 20 articles that have opinions asserted as fact, and hearsay and all this kind of garbage going around, basically trying to make this stuff that's not even fact into fact. As I mean, I know it's not a trait that's exclusive to the game world right now. It is all over the place. It is everywhere you look. There are people and uh, people that are trying to assert opinion as fact. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it is irresponsible at the very best to make this a thing. Like, people will believe this stuff. And more importantly, people will act on this stuff. And they will be sorely misinformed. Hey, it might actually be good for a laugh or two. If that's what you get your giggles out of, go ahead and laugh at the people that are acting on this stuff and thinking it is the gospel truth. But yeah, there's a point where it becomes dangerous, and yeah, like blatant disregard for the facts in this case could mean the death of one of the greatest entertainment companies to exist. And that would be a tragedy not only for gamers but for several other genres. Nintendo's talking about theme parks and movies and things of that nature. Just imagine what could be. Just imagine what might not be if people continue to drag Nintendo through the mud when they really don't deserve it. They are listening to their fans, and I've seen, as somebody who almost gave up on Nintendo, I did not purchase a Wii until darn near the end of its life cycle, and that was only because I was really bored one day and wanted to play some video games that I didn't have. As someone who nearly gave up on Nintendo, I can say that this is not going to make people want to have confidence in Nintendo. People putting forth their unresearched biases is not going to help anyone in the long run. Least of all, the people that buy games, the consumer. You're essentially cheating the consumer out of something that could be the future, or you are cheating a company out of a future that it could have had if the people had the right facts. I don't know. I guess I'm done with that monologue. I guess preachiness or whatever. I don't necessarily like getting on this tip because I'm not really that great at it. But when it's necessary, I will dive into the mire and figure out how best to convey a point that brings us all further along as a culture and as a people, as a society. So this is my first rant of this kind. It may not be my last. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, essentially, dude, Nintendo is doing everything they can to make sure that the Switch fixes the mistakes of the past couple of systems. They're bringing it full circle, and I, for one, believe that they can do it. If the media doesn't have them for breakfast before they can even get out of the gate. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Thank you guys very much for listening through this rambling. If you do feel the need to hit that like and or subscribe button, I will not hate you for it. Also, if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, I do a full clear series of a game called Xenoblade Chronicles X. I will put a couple of those videos on my screen, and hopefully see you guys next time. Again, thank you very much for your time, and have a wonderful day.